working on our custom travel guides to the interesting worlds of Dungeons and Dragons, exploring the multiverse with our own in-house travel writers, whom we have named Professor Eli.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here.
And Professor Scrumble. And we today are going to talk about travels you might want to plan, another vacation destination you might have in mind, called Strixhaven. Strixhaven, of course, is the university located on the plane of Arcavios, and it's going to be the setting of a very exciting upcoming book, Strixhaven, A Curriculum of Chaos, which will be coming out later this year from Wizards, from Dungeons & Dragons, but is based on the Magic the Gathering set Strixhaven. Mages of Strixhaven, I believe is the full title. And
I believe it was Strixhaven School of Mages.
There we go. That's it. The Unearthed Arcana is Mages of Strixhaven, and the set is School of Mages, and the book is Strixhaven, A Curriculum of Chaos, and give me a couple months, and I'll get that right every time. But I would love to know, Professor Eli, I'd love to plan a vacation, but you know, the Feywild sounded pretty dangerous. I think I might like something where, you know, some more like architecture to look at, or maybe some interesting sports that I could watch while I'm traveling. And I might like to, you know, maybe dabble in an extension course and learn something while I'm on my vacation. What exactly is Strixhaven? What's the background on this location?
All right, so Strixhaven is arguably the most famous school for mages across the multiverse. I am, of course, speaking from the lore that we know that came out of the Magic the Gathering set. So, little disclaimer here, a little footnote that, you know, our travel guide may be updated as we get more information out of A Curriculum of Chaos. But Strixhaven exists on Arcavios, which is a plane that it can be best described as like conflicting magic. It was, when it was first created, it was kind of a clash of two planes, and the magic was kind of chaotic. And you will find areas in this plane that still kind of have that characteristic of chaos. However, out of all of that chaos came Strixhaven, really. Strixhaven is a incredible university with 5 different colleges, each with distinct locations that you can visit. And while you're there, you can decide, oh, well, I don't know, you can learn magic. You can learn to weave magic into your dance routine, or you can find out how to create strange geometric replicas of your childhood cat over at the Quentins College. There's a lot to see here. So, and there's a lot more to see even outside of the boundaries of the university.
All right, so let's start with if you're actually touring the college, which things you might run into. Let's look at each of these 5 colleges has their own distinctive headquarters. And of course, as we're working on our new edition of our travel book, we are consulting the very useful Planeswalker's Guide to Strixhaven, which has some very helpful tips for travel that you might want to check out because it's just very cool. But for instance, the first college on our list is Quill College. And Professor Eli, we know that Quill is the college that works with words and the power of words, right? We talked about this a little bit during Unearthed Arcana, but they represent the colors white and black. And can we see the Quill College headquarters? If we were going to tour this, what we might want our college campus docent to walk us past?
Yes, so actually Quill, the best description that I have seen for the college has been, think of a train station, but extra, right? You have this big, beautiful domed glass ceiling and all of this filigree throughout. You also have, because mages of Quill are such performers, I'd like to think of them as kind of like the mirror of the Prismari mages. There's a lot of balconies throughout the college, large auditoriums where you can put on performances, you know, if you were an orator. And when you're going, and everything about Quill is very, very modern, very sleek. If you're going to be traveling to Quill College, I recommend you wear your best outfit because the mages here are known to have a very good sense of style and are not shy about letting you know if you don't.
The words are particularly powerful, and the taste is exceptional throughout. Now, one other thing that I love about the colleges is that they each have a distinctive mascot. Who's the mascot for Silver Quill, Professor Eli?
Oh, it's so cool. Mages of Silver Quill, their mascot is are called Inklings, and it's literally magical ink. So as you're walking about, you'll probably see mages, having maybe an open ink pot and a little creatures just hanging out with them, chattering about. But it can be a little bit messy if the mage is a little new to Silver Quill. So maybe keep your distance because yeah, you don't want to get that stain. It's not going to come out.
All right, so let's talk about the College of Elemental Arts. If I'm touring Strixhaven, what will I see when I go to see Prismari College?
Oh gosh, I think this is the most beautiful campus that you will find at Strixhaven. It is these large, huge spiraling towers with
Organic
elemental
forms.
magic. Yes, they have elemental energy that just kind of like winds around them. And what's really cool about Prismari is that they're all about um, showing off the past sculptures and other pieces of art that previous students have crafted. So it's kind of like going through a museum. Just throughout the entire tour, you're just going to be seeing all sorts of beautiful, beautiful artwork. You'll also find that the mages of Prismari, it's a school of art, really, of performance art. So you're going to be seeing kids doing backflips on your tour and people shooting firebolts left and right here and there. And I think I don't think it's necessarily a dangerous area to travel through, compared to our discussion of the Feywild. But keep an eye out, check out watch out for those freshman year students who don't quite have a strong control over their magic just yet.
Might get paint on you, might get fire on you. It's just, keep a good eye out as you go. Who's the mascot for the College of Prismari?
So the Prismari as mages, they love elementals, and that is their mascot. And the reason that they love elementals is that they embody the sort of chaos, the sort of controlled chaos that you will find in the elements. So it's kind of if you're looking at the mascot of Prismari, like the official mascot, it looks kind of like a dog uh, made of fire and some blue tapestry.
And of course, one thing I love about the architecture of Prismari is that you will always remember the colors of it because the red and blue are right in the design, which is just very cool. Our
Yeah, it's
next
really.
college on our campus tour is Witherbloom. What will I see when I take a tour through Witherbloom College, the College of Essence Studies, Professor Eli?
So I would say Witherbloom is one of the campuses where you want to be keeping an eye over your shoulder. The campus is set in a bog that is known to have zombie crocodiles and creatures of that sort throughout. Um, However, once you're actually inside the campus, you will find a very natural sort of architecture to the area. Of note is Sedgemoor. It's one of the areas of Witherbloom campus, and this is where you will find your undead animals and crocodiles and such. However, you will also find some of the best food that you can find throughout Arcavios. There is a troll warlock who actually works uh, for Witherbloom College and makes very authentic troll food. And you might say like troll food sounds pretty gross, but it's actually very well known throughout Arcavius that if you want to get authentic troll food, this is where you're going to go. But you will be sharing your meal with others because these are very big portions. I mean, I'm talking like Cheesecake Factory portions. So just be prepared for that.
All right. So a trencher just chock full of delicious food. Always important to note where to eat and drink and take in the sights when you're traveling. And I'm gonna we'll come back to this one. Who's the pest? Sorry, who's the college mascot of Witherbloom? No spoilers.
Yeah, so the mascot are pests. Think of maybe like worms that are cat-sized and they have spikes all over them. They're very temperamental. They bite. They're not easily trained. However, if you are a Major Witherbloom, they are very useful pets to have because they readily dissolve into magical energy you can use to cast spells. But I don't recommend, if you see a wandering pest, don't try and pick it up. Don't try and pet it. You're just going to get stung. It's a very unpleasant situation all around with
Yeah,
pests.
cute as they may be, best not to touch unless you know who's accompanying with them. As you know, just good dog etiquette in general.
Very true.
And also don't dissolve dogs for your magic. It's just good advice across the board. Um, our next college on the tour is going to be Lorehold. Can we take a look at what we might see when we visit Lorehold College? This is, of course,
This
the
is
College of
such a beautiful.
Archaeomancy.
It's a beautiful,
Proceed.
beautiful campus. So Lorehold College is all about the study of the past. That's where you're going to find your archaeologists and your anthropologists. And Lorehold College really pays homage to Arcavios's past. It is the buildings that make up Lorehold College have been excavated out of the sides of cliffs, and these different buildings and areas that you will walk around on the campus are connected by kind of precarious bridges. I'd be cautious if you're crossing any of these bridges. But once you're actually inside, you're going to find just gorgeous monuments to historical figures. This is kind of like a museum sort of situation, whereas Prismari is all about displaying the works of famous
More of a
artists.
gallery.
Lorehold,
Mm-hmm.
yes, exactly, a gallery. Lorehold's all about the historical significance of figures and occurrences throughout the plane.
Who is the mascot that you might encounter if you're taking your tour of Lorehold?
I love the mascot for Lorehold. And we talked quite a bit about this in our discussion of the Unearthed Arcana that came out. So the mascot are spirit statues. So these are literal statues that have been, I want to say possessed. I don't know if possessed is the right word, but each of these
Inhabited?
statues have, yes, inhabited. That's the best way to describe them. These are statues that have been carved to appear as historical figures, and the spirits of those historical figures have inhabited these statues. So these are very important figures to Lorehold mages who will
No pun
consult with
intended.
these statues. Yeah, or was it intended?
Oh!
But there's a lot of really beautiful variety in these statues that I love, and I think it makes the museum experience of Lorehold College a lot more exciting. If you're like, oh, I wanted to see this historical figure, and you find that, well, they're missing from their pedestal, and turns out they're giving a lecture down the hall.
So when you're booking your tour of Lorehold, you may want to see if there is a spirit statue available to act as your guide. You might get a unique perspective, or they might just tell you how that building was so much better 300 years ago. You never know, really. And finally, on your tour of Strixhaven and the colleges, what might you see when you go to visit Quandrix, the College of Numeromancy?
I love Quandrix. I love everything about this college. This is the college where you're going to find your engineers, your mathematicians, your uh, physicists. I think that's the word. It is this school is all about geometry, and it's really beautifully reflected in the architecture here. There is, of course, you're going to find a lot of geometric sort of inspired staircases. I don't know if that makes sense, but just go along with it.
There's probably some
You're going
beautiful
to
winding roads, some beautiful geometric staircases. You every creative way to shape space would make sense for Quandrix.
Yes, and Quandrix actually has arguably the most beautiful gardens that you're going to find throughout the campuses. Students here study, they study the laws of nature in order to replicate them in magic. So They will study they will study different types of animals and then create what are called fractals, which are basically they mimic the real life creature. And then they use these fractals in battle, or they will keep them as pets. And fractals are very easily manipulated with magic. So you can have a puppy-sized dragon and then manipulate it to be the size of a dragon. So you have a dragon-sized dragon. You also
And that,
have
if we can see the mascots as we're talking about them, the fractals are in fact the college mascots.
yes, they're so cool. They're so cool.
Yeah.
But I do want to point out, if you are going to be traveling to Quandrix College, you want to be careful about I believe it's the Central Hall. Yeah, the Central Hall. This seems a little counterintuitive that the Central Hall would be a place that you don't want to linger too long, but the Central Hall of Quandrix College tends to change uh, in every sort of dimension. So you could be in the college, and all of a sudden the hall decides maybe you're on the second story, and it decides it wants to be a one-story building. It's very dangerous. You could be walking down a hallway, suddenly the hall ceases to exist. So just be wary. Make your trip to Quandrix uh, relatively short to avoid any of these strange metaphysical occurrences.
I love the way that this suggests a sort of, it's called, I believe, the Taurus Hall, named after the donut shape that has so many interesting, unique geometric properties. But that I like to imagine that when I'm booking my tour to Quandrix, I should prepare for some sort of MC Escher-esque journeys from point A to point B. Hmm? So those are the five main colleges that make up Strixhaven, but that's not all there is to see, because of course we also have the Biblioplex, which I'm going to choose every opportunity to mention unnecessarily. And Professor Eli, we talked about this a little bit already, but what is the Biblioplex?
Oh gosh, the Biblioplex is the main library in Strixhaven, and it is said to contain every single spell ever created across the multiverse. So this is a great place to stop by if you're a wizard, if you want to add to your spell book. This is a great place to kind of research maybe what is this strange curse that you have on you? What did the hag put on you? Well, you can probably find out in the Biblioplex as well as
Once
the
you're
cure
done
to
with
it.
your Feywild vacation, you can start working on some of those consequences with some research at the Biblioplex. Yes. Hmm?
Yes, this is a great spot to stop in at.
All right. So while in terms of activities and things to do, I'll dip into our questions because I have to ask this right away. Not Halfwing wants to know which one is the party school.
Ooh, that's going to be oh wow. Okay, so if you want to go to to parties where the students are very like high society, they're very bougie, you want to go to Silver Quill parties. But if you want to go to like the bangers, you're gonna want to go to a Prismari party. That's where you're gonna find people who are like super extra. They're gonna be dancing in the middle of the room. They're gonna be shooting fire left and right. Could be a little bit dangerous, but honestly, I would go to a Prismari party.
Although I feel like probably each of the five, if you happen to get an invite, is probably worth hanging out with, because I feel like Quandrix parties would have like self-replicating snacks and other cool stuff that you like, new toys somebody made, and a Witherbloom party would have maybe some interesting brews based on the Unearthed Arcana that we got before. Be wary and have planned some time the next day, maybe. But who am I leaving out? Lorehold parties. Ooh, Lorehold
That's
parties
a
would be
bore. I'm
interesting.
sorry. No, no, I'm sorry. Lorehold does not know how to hold a party. That's you're gonna go there and there's just gonna be some like old statue talking to you about like I don't know some strange like theory that they had 300 years ago. It's you. Those are the kind of parties that you go to after like maybe you've gone to a lecture or something, and then there's that sort of like awkward sort of gathering that all the students have where you have like a cup of tea or something. And you're just trying to just make connections for employment after you graduate. I don't know.
Networking at Lorehold. I will say they probably throw some really great like guest speaker and seminars and revival tours and things like as things come into the sort of museum section of it that you'd like. There's probably some decent sort of receptions after those. But yeah, then maybe you go you bring your Prismari friend to hear the lecture and then you go to a flying fire and paint party. If that sounds good to you. Huh? All right. So, aside from the college itself, and the more activities you might want to engage in. We talked a little bit about this last time, but there might be if you check the schedules when you're planning your trip to Strixhaven, check to see if there are any matches going on of Mage Tower. What is the resident sport of Strixhaven?
I can't believe I forgot about this. So you're going to. This is a lot of fun. So you know how each college has their own mascot. Well, when the different colleges compete with one another, they each bring their own mascot to a field, and the two teams. There's a one team versus one team, as is typical in sports. I don't know. I don't know a whole lot about sports. Um, and it's kind of like they play what is akin to capture the flag. So you'll have your lore holds who are trying to guard their spirit statues, but then also trying to capture the Witherbloom's pest and trying to bring it back, and that's how you win. It sounds fun.
And
I
I
explained
believe
it very poorly.
the only rule, like you all magic is legal, but you can't hurt the other players, right? It's the any magic that would harm a player, a mascot, or spectator, or that would damage the stadium or basic rules of the game in any way is nullified. Otherwise, all magic is legal. I would expect the Quandrix team is probably constantly challenging the edges of that, like, did we interfere with the basic rules? I spell like Lorehold has, especially if that Unearthed Arcana holds, has some like time powers that I feel like might also. We'll see. I'm very curious what those arguments are like, but you may want to pick up an anything goes capture the flag match between mages while you are visiting the College of Strixhaven. And when you get outside of the college, there's more to the plane of Arcavios than just the college. Professor Eli, can you tell us a little bit about the natural wonders, the features, the geography of Arcavios?
Absolutely. So, when you're traveling throughout Arcavius, you're going to find what are called star arches. So, imagine the Gateway Arch in St. Louis, but in some cases much larger, very mystical, very magical. The It's not very clear what star arches are. They seem to kind of just pop up randomly throughout the plane. But it is said that mages who have traveled to star arches are said to have gleaned wisdom from them in great times of need. They're also a great place to hike to if you find a star arch out in the wild, because there are these creatures called servants, which are drawn to plants near star arches. So if you don't know what a servant is, think of a Pegasus without the wings, but then they also have elk horns that can sprout flowers. It's just really beautiful, elegant, magical creatures. Um, Beyond the star arches, I've mentioned this before. You'll want to go to Sedgemoor. That's one of the main locations on Witherbloom. That's where you can grab a bite to eat from a troll who is famous for his troll food. You also find ruins throughout the continent. It's kind of questionable whether or not you want to be going to these ruins. Many of them are guarded by soldiers from what is known as the Blood Age. So in Arcavius's history, there was a time of great war known as the Blood Age. And it appears that some soldiers from that age have kind of remained at their posts in these ruins. So maybe bring a friend if you're going to be traveling to some ruins.
Or possibly a Lorehold guide who can sort of help you negotiate with them or explain what's going on. Now, this is all, if I understand this, from there's two major continents, right? There's Erythia, commonly known as the Vastlands, and a mysterious southern continent called Galathul. And southwest are some deserts. To the west, some mountains and dense forests. On the eastern coast, Burogs, which look a bit like cousins to the Quotoa.
Yeah, so
Uh,
Truth be told, I'm not entirely sure how friendly these guys are, but in all of the artwork I've seen of Brogs, they are adorable and very cute, very friendly looking. So I'm going to have to do a little more research before I can report on Brogs, but my inkling says that, yeah, you should definitely go hang
And
out with some Brogs.
I will say, when we're talking about dangers and hazards of traveling to Strixhaven, I don't know that much about it, but I would certainly maybe make an attempt to avoid that area next to Witherbloom, labeled on the map as Detention Bog.
Yeah,
But there is
I don't
another
think you want to be going there.
there is another major danger of travel to Strixhaven that you just might want to be aware of as you're planning your itinerary. Professor Eli, can you tell us a bit about the Oriq?
Oh boy, the Oriq. All right, as I love the Oriq personally. I mean, I don't side with the Oriq, but I love the idea of them, the sort of concept behind them. That's actually that's out of character. I don't know if any professor of travel would actually be a fan of the Oriq. So this is a mysterious band of mages. They are dark mages, and all they want, their sole mission, is to A, destroy Strixhaven as an institution, and B, access all the forbidden spells that could be found in the Biblioplex. They are all about power. They just want to be powerful mages. And actually, in the Magic the Gathering, there was a series of short stories which the Oriq were featured in. And throughout that plot, they were actually working to summon what is known as the Blood Avatar, which is a creature of war whose sole purpose is to unmake everything that has stood and that has everything that has been created in the past few hundreds of years. The Eureka are very tricky too. They use illusion magic to sneak around campus to try and recruit students. So if you're going on tour, maybe and someone's like, "Hey, you want to learn some magic, but outside these walls," that's an Oriq. Do not talk to the Oriq. They may seem friendly, but they are actually very dangerous.
They may offer you some discounts on your tours, but in a slight echo of the Feywild, beware which bargains you might be making. Uh, Probably less inherently dangerous as bargains. Do they have a leader, Theorique, that we should kind of keep an eye out, most wanted style?
Yes, so they are known as Extus. I don't know a whole lot about Extus, but they're pretty creepy. So you run into Extus, you're not coming back. You're not coming back from Arcavios, man.
So, other than that very blunt warning, in our travel guide to Strixhaven, we have a few more do's and don'ts. I would say good advice when you're traveling to Strixhaven. Should you happen to meet the faculty of these various schools, try not to get caught up in any tensions or rivalry between the co-deans of each of the colleges. Each of these colleges, which represents opposite forces, has two deans who represent one each of the colors. It's a very interesting structure. And speaking strictly as an academic, I'm very curious how these faculty meetings go because they specifically always have two contrasting deans for each of the five colleges. And it must be quite a meeting when the faculty all sit down together. But one would not want probably to interfere in the wrong way between the two co-deans of each college who represent contrasting elements of what the college does. I would highly recommend going and looking up cards from this set because it is very fun and very inspiring, and you will get a good sense of the sort of the co-deans of the colleges and what they stand for, and it's just a lot of fun. Okay, that was out of character. Any other do's and don'ts, Professor Eli?
Well, I would say as you're traveling about, you may notice there are five powerful dragons, elder dragons that travel throughout the land. Beautiful to behold, but known to be short-tempered, very short-tempered. So enjoy from afar. You know, don't go up to one and ask for a selfie or anything of that sort. Just admire them and leave them alone. There's also areas throughout Arcavius known as snarls. So Arcavios is all about clashing magic. That's a big theme of the plane. Snarls are where the magic here is so knotted, it's very dangerous and unpredictable. The magic here is more potent, so you may be casting Bonfire to go to camp for the night, and suddenly you've cast Fireball on you and all of your closest friends. And then
Good note.
yeah, and then just overall, I know Arcavius is a really big, beautiful plane, um, and Strixhaven may inspire you to travel throughout the vast lands of Orithia. But the southern continent, Galithol, just don't go there. Just pretend it's not on the map because we really don't have any information on Galithol. So best to avoid it unless I don't know you plan on making a one-way trip.
Or if you do and you would like to become one of our travel writers for our fictional travel writing agency, please contact us about potentially one-way missions to the southern continent of Arcavios to help us fill in that map. We're always looking for more recruits because several of ours came back from the Feywild and didn't want to travel anymore.
And none came back from Galithol.
So far. We have a time for just a couple questions. Thank you all so much for hanging out today. A couple squid says, which Strixhaven mascot would you most want to have as a pet? Michael?
Oh gosh. Oh, that's a hard pick. I would have to go with oh gosh. Mm, I really like fractals. They don't look like a pet that you would be like petting a lot, but they're not going to be messy like inklings. They're not going to bite you like pests. So I got to go with my fractals.
You know, and I wasn't initially sure if Silver Quill was the fit for me when you suggested it, but I gotta say, my heart goes right to the Inklings. And I do love that power of words. I may have my fit. I'm gonna have to go on this campus tour to narrow it down, but they're so cute.
They're so
And
adorable.
one more very quickly. Chili Draw says plans for double major within Strixhaven or other multi-class chaotic synergies you see coming out of this with other D&D content. We don't know in a lot of ways, and we will be all excited together to find out how this adapts and shows up in D&D. And of course, a quick reminder that the Unearthed Arcana is playtest material and may change before we get there. But I did notice that the playtest material very specifically says that you can't take the same college from two different classes. You can't sort of be two different ways of being a Silver Quill. That could imply that you could be two different ways of being double majored. It might not, and that might change, but that stood out to me as a potential source for some really fun character concepts. A double major torn between two colleges as the faculty are fighting over them and trying to get them to commit to one side. Just seems like fun to me. And I
Yeah,
think that's about all the... Yeah.
No, oh no, go ahead.
Final thoughts. I'm going to run over very slightly again.
I absolutely love the different colleges that you'll find in Strixhaven. So much flavor here. I am Team Quandrix all the way, even though my full-time job is pretty much being an editor and writing all of the time. So sorry, Silver Quill, but Quandrix is just so cool.
Absolutely. Okay, finally, Key Squared asked how adorable is that owl, and the answer is the most adorable. We will have to get back to the rest of these questions. Thank you all so much for watching when we have future updates to our travel guides. But this has been so much fun from Professor Scrumble and Professor Eli. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to updating our travel guides with all the new information we can on the worlds of the Feywild and Strixhaven. Substitute worlds for the appropriate planes. You know what I'm trying to say. This has been D&D Beyond, and we will see you next time.
It's D&D.